2. I'm not going to 2 yet because we still have that's your hot take of the whole entire year. I'm gonna say like
I think it's 2.
Welcome back with a new episode of the Targeting Podcast. I'm here with Justin and John, baby. Guys, how you doing? John's back home. Love to see that.
Back home.
What's good, boys?
Damon couldn't make it with us tonight, but we still got a lot to talk about today. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. We're gonna do a new bit on our podcast. We're gonna do Athlete of the Week, where we each have our own Athlete of the Week. We haven't discussed it yet. So, John, who's your athlete of this week?
I think I got to go with a good old Tyreek Hill. Kid had an unbelievable game against a great Bucs game, which we're going to get into later. He had 13 receptions with 289 yards, averaging 21 almost. His longest being 75, and 3 touchdowns. And we saw his little backflip move into the back. I give that a 7.5 out of 10. He didn't stick the landing, but those are crazy stats. Almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's just an unbelievable game. And he got, I think, 200 of those yards, 203, I believe, if I got it right, in the first quarter of the game.
I think you're exactly right. Yep.
It's crazy.
That is, I don't think they've seen that since some obscure Ravens player in '99. They were talking about it on the game. Yeah. So that is unbelievable.
All right, Justin, who is your athlete of the week?
You know, I really racked my brain for this one, and I was trying to be interesting and go with somebody other than Tyreek. Will Fuller came to mind. He had 2 touchdowns. He had a monster game, almost 200 yards as well.
Game. Yeah.
But Tyreek Hill, this was a legendary performance. I can't give it to anyone else besides Tyreek Hill. I tried and I can't. I mean, literally 270 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, 13 catches. I mean, it's an insane week. I'm not going to disrespect him by not picking him because he was the best player of the week for sure, if you ask me. What about you, Jay?
Okay. Yeah. So my athlete of the week was not Tyreek Hill, and this was biased. But my athlete of the week was actually Derrick Henry. He had 3 touchdowns, 178 rushing yards, average I think 6.5 yards per carry. Obviously, Tyreek Hill had a great game, but I was trying to think a little more out of the box for this, and Derrick Henry was just a guy that came to mind.
He's an absolute beast. He's got to give that to him too.
Someone who just can't be stopped. But yeah, Tyreek Hill had a great game, and I respect that. But I was trying to go a little more. I like Derrick Henry, so I was looking at him, and obviously he faced the friggin' Colts, but still a great game for him.
They have a strong defense, but they do. They fell. That running game that the Titans have just pounds up the middle. Darius Leonard can't do anything with that. The Titans had a TikTok made that. So one of the players made a TikTok. He was like, for all of you out there, here's how to stop Derrick Henry 101. First of all, knock away the stiff arm, alligator roll, and I was like, no one's tried that before.
It's so hard to do, and Tyreek Hill and Derrick Henry are both hard to stop for their separate reasons. But we'll get into that a little later. But we got big NBA news.
But before we move on, because we have huge NBA news. But since I did mention Will Fuller, I will say, I think it's absolutely tragic what ended up happening with him. And I know he's not the first case, but he's suspended for the rest of the year now because of PEDs. Yeah. And it wasn't like he was actually doing drugs or something like that. It was a medication that the Texans training staff gave to him, and it's just not allowed. They found out. That's tragic. And
that's why he's a free agent
too, so he might be done in Houston. So it's crazy. He's been playing great this year, and
that's got to be on the organization. I feel bad for that. There should be something against the organization getting fined, and the player should get a warning, especially if it's his first time. I don't know what it is with Will Fuller, but
I think it is the first time.
But that's a damn shame for a guy who's playing unbelievable, and he doesn't even know. It's like you could point a finger and say, "Oh, I didn't know," but generally, if you didn't know, it sucks, and that's on the training staff.
I think too. It's tough because now you have stuff that you're still allowed to use, but then you have stuff that this case where you're just not allowed to use. I think it's all it's unambiguous, but I think they need to have more strict rules about what you can and cannot use, because you're having a lot
by
of teams
brand names and stuff.
They're like, it's not a drug, it's a drug, but it's not like a steroid or something like that. And then it's getting ridiculous. So yeah.
And I feel like on that Will Fuller thing, the guy is going to be the free agent, like you said. I feel like a team is going to definitely pick him up. I don't think he's going to go back to Houston because he's got so much potential. And you saw like DeAndre Hopkins left and went to the Cardinals. The Cardinals pick him up. He's having an unbelievable season still with the Cardinals, and they're doing much better compared to the previous seasons they had when they fell to barely even I don't even think they got a 500. And I feel like Will Fuller will go to a team like the Cardinals that's going to need him. Like the Titans, Cardinals, somebody that has enough money that can buy a guy like him, because he is a little underrated. Teams overlook people like that.
I really like him and Deshaun Watson.
And that's what I was just going to say. I really hope that he does go back to Houston, because Deshaun Watson, after losing D-Hop, he needs something. He signed an extension in Houston. He's going to be a Texan for the next 4 or 5 years. And I need him to have some help. Deshaun Watson's too good to just suffer and his career come to an end in a losing team. And 5 years from now, he's not even a starter because they could never get over 500 or whatever it is. I hope Will Fuller goes back because he needs a piece to throw to. He needs some help. I feel so bad for Deshaun and for Will Fuller. That sucks to hear.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, now we got to get an NBA news because we got
go
big NBA news. So Russell Westbrook headed to Washington. Who would have thought? I'm not gonna say I would have thought that because that's too crazy. So I'm gonna do my hot take. And this may be backed up by facts. It might just be my personal opinion. I really don't care. But it's gonna be Jerry's hot take. So it's not that hot. It's spicy. So
like an Addison Ray hot, or like
it's spicy. I wouldn't say it's too hot. You guys might agree with me. I don't know because we haven't talked about this yet. So John Wall going to the Rockets. I overall think that helps the Rockets. I think the Rockets won that trade. I also think Harden will stay in Houston now that John Wall's there. Feel free to.
I actually
be in Houston. I'll let you go first, John. You go first.
I was just gonna say it's a hot take, and I think I was pretty much majority there with you coming into this podcast, thinking about this trade when it just happened. You look at this trade, and I think we all agree. We'll get more into it. I think at least Rockets win this trade. You get John Wall and a first-round pick. I think it was a first-round pick, right?
It is. Yep, it's protected 2023, I believe.
So first-round pick. I mean, and, you know, none of us, we talked about it. Russ, the attitude, just, you know, if he was staying with the Rockets, I think we all agreed he wasn't. We mentioned this John Wall situation. I felt it was more of a potential thing, but I never thought it would actually happen. But so I'm glad it did. I feel like the Rockets won out on it. And hot take too, I feel like I saw too, James Harden said that John Wall was one of those types of players that he wanted in Houston. And now he's got that guy who's, in my opinion, just overall better than Russ. Just one of the fastest players out there. He's not a stat stuffer. He's gonna put up the stuff that you need, and he's not a ball hog either. He's a guy that I feel like can share the ball with James.
He can. It's just a matter of he's always getting injured.
No, I agree. He is a liability, so I think that's why you got to add that first round pick in there. He's gotten injured so many times. And I feel bad because he's been out of the league a lot, and he deserves to be playing at an all-star level.
Justin, what do you think about my hot take?
I think that, so if you ask me who won this trade, I would say neither side won the trade. I think it's a lateral move for arguably both sides, but at the same time, I think it could make both teams better because I think that the Rockets did what they needed to do by getting Westbrook out of town. John Wall has been injured for like 3 straight seasons. And when he was playing with Bradley Beal in like 2017-18, the last time he was freaking healthy, John Wall was a better player. So Bradley Beal was playing off of John Wall. Now John Wall is going to be playing off of James Harden. John Wall is going to be playing as the second option for the first time really in his career. And that'll be interesting to see how he works. I do think he'll make it work. He's a good playmaker. He's a good defender. He'll make it work. I think it'll be nice. He's reuniting with DeMarcus Cousins. They played together at Kentucky and were a great duo. And they've been posting on social media that they're excited to be back together. If DeMarcus Cousins can also get healthy, and play very well this year. A big three of John Wall, James Harden, DeMarcus Cousins.
That's
I know
scary.
it'd probably be a better big three 4 or 5 years ago. But even now, I mean, the best you get out of Boogie, they didn't have a center last year, so they could get a lot out of Boogie. They also brought in
still scary.
They brought in Christian Wood as well to run the power forward / center. They have a nice little roster now. I think that they're much better now than they were at the end of the playoffs when they got eliminated. I think that they've done the things they needed to do. And on Washington's end, Bradley Beal gets to play with Russell Westbrook. That's by far the best player he's ever got to play with.
How do you think that duo works out, though?
I don't know. I don't know. I think Westbrook is kind of I don't want to call him a toxin because he's not a toxin in the same way that like a Kyrie Irving is a toxin. But the way he plays his game is kind of toxic. He's not a winning player. And Bradley Beal also just put up 31 points per game, but didn't make an all-star team because he's not necessarily a winning player either. Maybe the two of them can figure it out together. I do think that with Westbrook and Beal, and they drafted Denny Avdija, they got Rui Hachimura, they got Davis Bertans, they got Thomas Bryant. I definitely do think that they are an 8 seed. I think they make the playoffs next year. I will say that. You guys can respond on that, but I do think they make the playoffs.
I think you're definitely right. I think Washington now with this trade definitely bumps up because I think John Wall just needed to get out of there. Got injured a lot. The Bradley Beal situation. I think he just needed a new start, a new slate. Houston now, honestly, for me, looks like, again, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but they look like they're going to be a team that might be a higher seed than we predicted, or they could be lower, depending on how this whole dynamic works out. I think the main issues here we see are, like you said, Westbrook kind of a toxin, and Bradley Beal now has a new player that he's got to work with, and he's a Bradley Beal, like you had said in a previous podcast, underrated player, but just doesn't, this team just doesn't seem to get that far. Like a while back when John Wall was healthy, like you said, 2017, they were doing much better. They were good when John Wall was healthy. Yeah. They were good. And now with the Houston, the problem is you got to balance two players that want to balance the ball together. And John Wall, I think, is going to be willing to give that up, but also you have to balance to make sure that John Wall is not getting injured and it's still a liability there. And you have the team, the other players on the teams around them. So they both have their own separate problems, but it's going to be interesting because I think it was a good trade. And I agree with you now looking at it, the lateral movement you talked about. I just personally looking at this, I'm a big John Wall fan compared to a Westbrook, and I just feel like Houston definitely needed Westbrook out. So for an opinion situation, I think Houston won it. But
I do agree with you, Justin. I think Washington makes the playoffs because of this move. I don't know if they would have, because I still think John Wall might get an injury or miss a couple of games because of something. It won't be, hopefully it's something major, but I do so originally I was like, if they still just have Beal, then it's probably they did add a Dia, but they would need a guy like Russell Westbrook to kind of push them into that playoff spot. So I do agree with you there. I initially said Houston at the 2 seed.
Yeah, I think you gotta. Yeah, Justin and I.
You did say that.
You did say that.
All right. Here's the thing. You did say that they got better, and I agree with you. I think they got better. If John Wall stays healthy the whole season, and the whole Harden, John Wall, and DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie, that all works out, I don't see why that can't happen.
I gotta agree with you now. I don't.
Here's why. Here's why.
I'm not gonna agree with you that they're gonna be a 2 seed. But
here's
why.
Yeah.
Here's why. Okay, because the big thing was I was just discounting the Warriors. But the Warriors, they're not a bad team. They're still not a bad team because right now they don't have Clay, but they got a lot of other pieces. But they're still not going to be the strong team that they once were. To me, if John Wall can work out, because that's been Harden's problem. He just hasn't had a guard to kind of work with. We thought
Well. He's had Chris Paul. He's had Russell Westbrook. Now he's got John Wall. I don't think it's actually fair to say that he hasn't had a guard to work with, because I think he has had a guard to work with. And the Rockets, honestly, kudos to the Rockets for keep trying to put the right one next to him, because that actually shows that they're committed to James Harden. Based on how many trades they've made to bring a star point guard who wants to play alongside.
It's all based on his game style. If he's going to be able to balance it with a player like that.
The thing is, sorry, John. You go. Justin, you just mentioned Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. That is 2 major extremes. You got Russell Westbrook, who will never give up the ball and is just focusing on
that's what I was going with.
Chris Paul, unless when he was on OKC, he had to produce because no one else was going to produce if he didn't produce. So he was shooting a lot. But if he is not going to be the main focal point on the team if there's another guy there. So I think you are having both of two extremes. Now you got John Wall, who can efficiently, in my opinion, score. He's a pretty quick player. And he also distributes the ball well. So I think this is the real test for James Harden to now see, like, is it him? Is it his fault, or can he just not like?
So can he
play with the point guard?
With that, I will agree with you that Houston looks better. I had put them at the 6 seed, best as a 5 seed. I'd probably at this point bump them up to a 3 or a 4. I'm not going to 2. I'm not going to 2 yet because we still have that's your hot take of the whole entire year. I'm gonna say like
you can't think it's 2. You put the 2 up like for a fact they're gonna be 2. It's crazy. That is a hot take.
The West is so difficult to predict every season, and right now we thought the Warriors. Was it you that thought the Warriors are 1, Jerry? Or was it you, Justin?
No. I don't know that anyone said 1.
I don't know anyone said the Warriors were 1.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if it was Damon, but someone said that the Warriors were gonna, or I think you said the Warriors were gonna move up into a playoff spot, which I agree, but. Right now, I don't know where the Warriors are going to lay because I thought they were going to be higher.
Team still.
I thought they were going to be higher, but now that they don't have Clay, you got rookies. You're going to give them minutes, but I don't think you're going to be as high as we predicted. It's going to be interesting now with everything going on. And this is leading into the whole LeBron now back in LA and AD as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it probably won't happen, but I like John Wall there. I think, like...
I agree with you.
I hope that he stays healthy, and I hope that DeMarcus Cousins stays healthy. I need to see DeMarcus Cousins play a healthy season. Man, he was the best center in the league, number 1 in the league when he was last healthy for a full season. So I need him to come back. I know he'll never be that again, but I need him to just be a serviceable center.
That's the problem for Houston, is this is very, like, risky.
It is risky
because you have Boogie, who just can't stay healthy. You also have John Wall, who can't stay healthy, and it's not like they miss like a few games; they miss entire seasons. So, for the Rockets, I think you just have to focus on keeping them healthy. I don't know what you do to keep them healthy. I think you play them at limited minutes, in my opinion. Harden takes the damn ball the whole time, anyways. He plays like 40 minutes a game. I think you play them on limited minutes at first, and then give them more minutes.
I think you got to just
have to keep them healthy, or you will not make the playoffs.
I will say though, based on what you just mentioned it there, and now that they have a new GM and a new coach in Houston, I really would love to see them move away from give Harden the ball and you have 4 other guys on the court. It doesn't matter who. They need to make Harden just a one of the 5 players on the floor. Obviously, he's going to get way more touches than anyone else on that team. But at the same time, you can't just have your game plan be give him the ball and everybody else just fall in line. It's got to be a system, and he needs to be a part of it. He needs to be a part of a system, not just he's the man, everybody else is just there.
Well, now that you got
to change because that's not winning basketball.
Now that you got John Wall and Boogie, sorry, Jerry, 1 second.
Yeah.
Now that you got John Wall and Boogie, again, like Jerry just said, important keeping them healthy. How they're going to approach that, honestly, because we know that those 3 are going to be on the floor at the same time. If again, saying they're all healthy, they're going to be on the floor at the same time. Too. And Wood, so they're going to all be on the floor on the court at the same time. But the problem with that is, I feel like Harden's going to keep the same minutes he has. But when you cycle in John Wall and Boogie out, like you said, Justin, you bring up a huge point. You got to make sure that when Harden's just on the court and he doesn't have Wall or Boogie, it's not just give Harden the ball. And if it is, then it's got to be a different kind of dynamic than just give Harden the ball. And he'll still produce for you, because if you keep John Wall and Boogie limited, they'll produce as well. But he's
still the man. He's the undisputed number 1 option superstar. He's the man. But it just needs to be part of a system, not the entire team. He can't be playing hero ball 82 straight nights. He needs to be part of a system. And the Rockets, I hope that the Rockets do that. I think they will. Because Steven Silas, their new coach, just came from Dallas, where they basically made a Luka-centric system, but everybody else worked perfectly around him. One of the best offenses, statistically, one of the best offenses in history.
Yeah.
So I hope that he set something similar up, and I like the pieces that they have. I will say that I think it was a scummy move from John Wall, and I don't know all the details behind it, because I know Harden had ended. The last call was Harden saying he'd prefer to play with John Wall over Westbrook, but John Wall putting in a trade request after sitting on the bench for 3 years, making $50 million from the Wizards, and then the second you're healthy, putting in a trade request to leave is a scummy move. And he owed it to Washington to come back and try out with Beal. And Beal was signing those shorter extensions to stay in Washington, waiting out Wall's injuries.
Yeah.
And Wall just went and did this. I don't know what exactly happened. I'm not behind the scenes, but if he just put in a trade request and that was that, like I'm not.
I would have liked to see Wall come back because the Wizards were a strong team. I feel like
Wall owed it to that city.
Whenever I saw the Celtics coming out to play Washington, sometimes when Wall was healthy, I was scared with the Beal situation there too. But then these past few years, I've going into the Washington games, like it's like nothing. It's nothing because you don't have that fastest player on the court.
I can see where he's coming from, though. I do agree with you, Justin. It's a scummy move. He owed it to that city to try to win something for them. But I think it might be a similar, and this is not the exact same, but a similar Gordon Hayward situation where you have this ginormous injury, and all you're trying to do basically is get away from that injury. And one of the ways to do that is to get away from the team. That's why I don't think he signed the extension. So I think Wall's at a similar case here where, like, you look at all the facts, right? Like, Beal was signing these shorter extensions to stay. I think at the end of the day, he's just trying to get out of the city because he's just trying to paint a new picture. And what he's trying to do is paint a new picture.
He wants a new start. I get that.
Do it? Maybe not. That's kind of a scummy move to kind of leave the city after all these people were backing you. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's not like I don't want to say Washington did get Russell Westbrook. So I'm not going to say it's an entirely scummy move because at the end of the day, they're not getting it. I think Wall personally could play better if he was not injured than Westbrook. But getting Westbrook from that deal, I think kind of evened it out.
It's a balance. It's a balance in that trade.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said when we first started talking, it is a lateral move. And I think that at this moment on this day, who's better, John Wall or Westbrook? I would probably say Westbrook, even though the style of basketball he plays isn't winning basketball. I'd say Westbrook is a more talented player.
He's a more talented player.
To put that at the end of the day, having that talent to go alongside Beal, I'm happy Beal has someone to run with. And I'm just excited to watch both sides of that. I'm happy that the trade was made, and I want to watch Washington and I want to watch Houston games this year. So it's exciting.
Agreed. So, yeah, we kind of shadowed that topic. That was the biggest sports news. We'll just kind of update you. So LeBron signed a 2-year, $85 million extension in LA, and Anthony Davis also signed a 5-year, $190 million extension in LA. So keeping those guys. What do you guys think about that? Just any thoughts?
I don't think it was a surprise.
Yeah.
No, it's not a surprise.
I'm surprised AD had 5 years. I was thinking more of like 3 or 4, but I think we just all knew that those two are coming back to try and dominate for the next few years. And LeBron, if he feels like I feel like LeBron's going to try it again with LA as long as he can, and then we'll see what happens. He's aging, but he's still dominant right now.
I think so too. It's funny because the deal LeBron signed takes him through the year where Bronny will be eligible for the draft. And I would bet my life that wherever Bronny gets drafted, LeBron signs a 1-year deal there for his last season.
You think?
To play with his son?
I definitely think
I feel like 100%.
I definitely think so. I think that was very intentional the way he lined up this contract to be an unrestricted free agent the year Bronny is drafted. So that would be interesting to see.
That would be so cool. I'd be all for that.
You got to watch that whole season, and if they got to a championship, which hell, that'd be tough. But depending on the team he goes to, that'd be a hell of a thing to share that moment with your son.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, even just to play with him at all, it'll be super cool to watch.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that's ever happened before. I
don't know because the age difference there is also extreme. I mean, compared to
LeBron's playing like he's going to play as late as basically anyone really will ever play. So I mean, he's going to play into his 40s. So interesting.
We'll see what happens.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
it will be. So then we got the Ball brothers are all in the league now.
Do we want to talk about? Do we want to? Okay, we'll talk about that first. So they're all in the league. What are your thoughts? Like, a lot of people hate on LeVar, but like, because he just speaks out of his ass. But like,
yeah,
honestly, I respect it. Like, he does speak out of his ass, and he's saying, "I'm gonna beat Jordan." Like, no, like you're not.
I'm happy for him. His 3 sons are in the league.
But at the end of the day, he got all of his sons in the NBA. I think Jello was definitely the hardest to do, but he got all of them in the NBA.
Did he do that, or did the three of them do that?
Okay,
well, no, here's the thing. You know what? I think what happens these kids have had a lot of setbacks with things. You know, they have had a little situations. You know, moving over seas, and then the whole scandal in China with the stealing situation. Remember that one? Which is interesting.
Boy, I don't know. There's been so much shit. I believe it.
Jello got arrested in China.
Yeah.
And then LeVar had to go to,
and then Trump was like,
and extradite him
back.
Right? Yeah. So I think these kids have been through. I'm not saying. I mean, again, they're rich beyond compare, so they don't compare to any shit that other people have gone through. But they've been through shit. And I think when you also look at your dad, who was a complete failure in football, he was no. Listen to me. The man made the practice squad for the Jets. And then he moved over to another team, dropped out of the NFL, went back to college, I think, or in college, he tried basketball, and he didn't go anywhere with it. So what I'm saying with this is not a failure in a bad sense, but his dad, I mean, he started the brand, but his dad wasn't the athlete like these three. So these three kids now are taking on that side of his dad, along with the brand, and I'm happy for them. I can't say I love LeVar, but you got to at least respect him raising these kids in the environment, and they make it to the league. I mean, you don't see three brothers in the league usually.
Yeah.
No, I know. I respect it. I do.
What I also will say, too, is at the end of the day, nothing's taken away from these three brothers. They had to put in so much. I don't think people fathom, like, how much work they have to put in, even with all their gifts. Like, how much work they have to put in. So I don't want to take anything away from them, because they definitely had to put in a ton of work to get to where they're at. But I think as far as LeVar setting his sons up for success, I think was like no other. I mean, you saw all the things he did for like Jello, and then just LaMelo, like all the leagues he put him in, he freaking creates leagues. Like,
I know.
I'm not going to take anything away from what the kids did, but I will put some respect on his name for kind of going through, because obviously, I mean, I hope they would want to do it too. I mean, I don't know how much that was in the plan, but I will, at the end of the day, you don't have to like him, but at the end of the day, I will respect for what he did for his kids.
No,
I definitely agree. I agree.
It's a guy that has an attitude, and he talks out of his ass, like we said, but when you look at that, you step away from that and you just look what he's done for his three sons. Seems like a hell of a dad. Seems like a huge family guy. We've seen that.
Huge
family guy. Jesus. And I mean, you got to respect that, because if he was an ass and talks out of his ass, and one of his three sons made it into the league and the other two were struggling, and he just blamed it on them for not working hard enough, that's a different story.
I also think you won't keep, like, hopefully, like, you won't hear from him a lot again. Like,
I hope. I disagree. I
disagree. But no.
It took Lonzo, like, practically disowning him as a dad to get him to shut up when Lonzo was drafted. And now, all these years later,
still had LaMelo
finally in peace. And with LaMelo and LiAngelo, I mean, LeVar is very involved with those two now, since Lonzo basically just cut all ties. I think we definitely will be hearing from him. But either way, I respect what he's done, and, it is what it is. I think that if you're a Detroit Piston fan, tough times before the draft lottery, you're thinking that you might get LaMelo, and you end up with LiAngelo, who probably won't even get minutes for you. Yeah, but you know what? Whatever. It's all good. It's super cool that all three of them are in the league, and now they joined Drew Holiday, Justin Holiday, and Aaron Holiday as the other triplets, or not triplets, but just set of three brothers in the league.
And then aren't there the Antetokounmpos?
Oh, and all the Antetokounmpos. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you don't usually see this. I think recently there's been more, but it's still a hell of a feat. It's still a hell of a feat. You don't see it.
Cool. Yeah.
And then on that, just briefly, I wanted to mention a brief thing in the basketball world. Larsa Pippen. I don't know if you guys heard a lot of drama about that. Barstool talked about it. Barstool talked about that more, so I'm not going to take their thunder for that. The 1 Minute Man went over that. But Larsa, I just feel bad for Scottie Pippen Jr. His mom's just banging NBA stars and rappers left and right, and he's trying to get into the league at some point. He's young. I think he's like Mikey's age or something. and he's trying to get in the NBA. He's in college now. He's still young. So he's trying to get into the NBA. His dad, mad respect. I mean, again, you can say what you want. He's just a great basketball player, though, overall. And you just feel bad because he's trying to be like his dad. You can tell that. And his mom's out here being a whore. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Just wanted to mention the drama, but.
Yeah, no, my only takeaway really from that is just I feel so bad for Scotty Jr. That sucks, man.
You do.
That sucks. And I hope he just keeps his head down and just does what he needs to do. He can get to the league, and hope he does, because he doesn't deserve all this shit.
I hope he uses this as motivation to just an F you to your mom and a look at me, dad kind of situation.
I can't even imagine the amount of shit that guy must get on the court. I can't even.
You should hear the 1 minute man. I highly suggest going over there and watching everyone.
The ball's on Future. He wrote a song, like he wrote like lines about.
He wrote lines, and the thing that he wrote lines. He was like, I got your wifey in.
Now she's fucking with Malik Beasley, the guy who just got arrested. Like
Beasley, oh my God, Malik Beasley. Who the? Oh my Jesus! All right, anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that.
Yeah, no, it's wild shit, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
So that's our NBA talk.
That's our NBA talk. So Hooli. Oh no, wait, we got to get Justin. So we have another bit, Justin's stat of the week. So Justin,
all right, yeah, I got you. So basically just like a interesting random sort of fact I'll be doing, or stat rather, I'll be doing like every week now. And this week I brought a pretty interesting one to the table. We got Blake Griffin has made more threes in a game than Kyle Korver, who is obviously one of the best 3-point specialists in history. And it's 9-8, in case you're wondering the number. So that's a crazy.
That's actually really cool. That was good.
Wow.
I would have never. If you asked me that in a million years, I would have never.
That's wild.
I would have gone with Kyle Korver.
It is true. Blake on the Pistons last year. It must have been last year, yeah, because that was his healthy year. He averaged like 25. The man was ridiculous when he first got to the Pistons before his knee injury. And he made 9 threes in a game, and Korver's best is 8. He's made 8 his career high is like 8. In like 8 different seasons. Like he's made 8 a bunch of times, but it's just he's never gotten to 9. So
that's crazy.
There you go.
That's wild. Because Kyle Korver is a known just sniper.
One of the best 3-point shooters ever.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's really cool, Dustin. That's really cool. All right, so now we got another bit. We got Hoolie's WTF moment of the week.
What the fuck moment? Honestly, let's just go back to. We're gonna get into it more at the end. We're gonna talk hockey in a minute, but Hoolie's what the fuck moment is. Tom Brady on 3rd and goal against KC. You're down 20-7, something like that, and fucking he throws an absolute shit pass to Rob Gronkowski. We've seen him throw passes in the end zone, high balls. Rob usually brings them down. This was not even close to Rob Gronkowski. It was about 2 Robs stacked on top of each other. And then to make matters worse, Chris Jones, KC defense, comes over and starts smack-talking Tom Brady. Let me just say to you, I don't care if Tom Brady throws a shit pass. I don't care if Tom Brady does shit these next 2 seasons. You have no right, as much as I still have a little regret for Tom leaving, you have no right to walk up to Tom Brady and shit talk the man who has more rings than you have children. And and fucking shit talk him and shit talk him when this man can do whatever he wants. I mean, the man is playing at an age which we've all believed he should have retired years ago. He's still got rings close to this age. I just, again, we talked about the whole Tom Brady thing. I just feel like on Chris Jones's part, I don't know who started it. It was hard to tell, but Chris Jones seemed to be getting into it, saying something. And Tom Brady, now that he's on the Bucs and doesn't have Bill holding his leash, he's gotten real mouthy lately. And another thing that's going to lead into this, it's a double what the fuck moment this week. What the fuck is wrong with Tom? He has explicitly said, someone mentioned to him saying, why didn't you shake Nick Foles' hand after the Bears game? He said, I only shake hands with memorable players, people that I remember, or people that I'm good friends with, something like that.
I never heard that. Holy shit.
Let me just tell you right now, Nick Foles beats you in a Super Bowl.
Oh, is that true? Okay?
Yeah. I'm paraphrasing that, but he said something that was very passive-aggressive. Now, and it wasn't just Nick Foles. He's done this multiple times. The only people he shook hands with is Patrick Mahomes that I remember. And I think Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. So,
Peyton.
Well, no, this season.
Oh, okay.
This season. So
Okay, yeah,
he just started this. He started this season. This season he started it.
Okay.
So what I don't understand is, and here you are with Bruce Arians, who's continuously blaming Brady. If you listen to these press conferences saying it's Brady's age, he's not connecting, stuff like that. And now you have Brady acting like a child, not shaking people's hands. I don't care. Again, the whole Chris Jones thing, the man's got 6 rings. Fuck off. Now you got Brady situation. Brady, you're acting like a little.
So did Brady not shake Mahomes' hand the other night?
He did shake Mahomes' hand. That's the only one that I've seen recently shaking Mahomes' hand.
He did.
Okay.
So I just don't understand what is up with that. You shake Mahomes' hand, and that's unbelievable. You shake Mahomes' hand, but you don't shake the man who beat you in the Super Bowl. Like, I just don't understand that.
Oh, right, because he didn't shake Nick Foles' hand when they were playing the Bears. That's what you're saying. I was thinking back to the Super Bowl. That's my okay. Interesting shit. I didn't realize any of this stuff was going on with the handshaking, but interesting, cool. I like it.
Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Justin. What do you think about that game? That Kansas City.
Yeah. Do we want to get into that now?
We'll talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk about NHL because we haven't talked about it in a while. But I just think that game was important to know because I think everyone was looking at that game and thinking at least for me, that was a potential Super Bowl matchup right there. And what did you think? What were you surprised about in that game? But what else were you or what were you not?
I think that the final was 27-24 in favor of KC. And I think that it wasn't that close. It shouldn't have been that the way the game was played. It wasn't that close. It was a Kansas City win by a lot. Kansas City was the better team on the field.
Yeah. Tyreek took that. Tyreek took that game. Mahomes took that game. I just at the end of the day, also going back to that moment, I just don't get it with I still have mad respect for Brady. Again, more and more as this whole progression in the season is going, I have seen more and more of his attitude towards the game, and it's reflecting on the way he plays. And so I said before the whole Buck situation that I just think this is really toxic now. It's looking like it's just going downhill for him. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a family. I don't know what it is. The man is just falling, not shaking people's hands. At the end of the day, my whole thing, I don't care how much you hate the other team. I don't care how much, I don't care who you're playing. You got to shake the other team's hands. At the end of the day, you got beat fair and square. Mahomes, you played him multiple times. You beat him twice. Now he's beat you twice. He's just a star player. He's an up-and-coming player. He's probably going to beat your record. And he did shake his hand, but you just gotta have less of an attitude. And there's a thing, too, with the coaching. And Bruce Arians has got it. And I've even seen Tom's going at his offensive line sometimes. And I just don't know what's going on with the Bucs. They're a team that on paper should be not easily, but could be one of the only teams that could beat KC.
Undefeated.
And right now, and undefeated. And they are just falling apart. It's one of these things where you have all these great players, but I think it's something toxic is going on. They're just not mixing well.
I think no doubt. I don't know who's stopping Kansas City.
Now at this point, I don't think now at this takeaway, no one is. I mean, you saw the Ravens-Steelers game. That's a close game. Ravens came out to play with their defense. Marcus Peters got injured.
I'm sorry.
Let me just say,
who's not good?
The way the Steelers played against the Ravens didn't even have Lamar. Let's just state that.
Here's the the Steelers have good pieces, but as an overall team, and looking at their schedule, they should not be.
And they have an easy schedule.
It's cool that they are, but I like Chase Claypool. I think he's a fantastic player, very reliable. Juju, love Juju, but I just think overall, looking have you ever seen the way Ben Roethlisberger plays? I mean, I'm not a big fan, but have you seen how he plays? It's not like a QB that shouts undefeated to me.
It's Phillip Rivers. It's like Phillip Rivers for me.
It's just he's a good QB. He's pretty reliable, but he's not the guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl, in my opinion. So
no, his time's over.
So I just think once they meet the Chiefs, I can't wait to see if that matchup happens because the Chiefs will just roll over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be not at Arrowhead, right? You said because the Steelers are going to be...
if the Steelers lose one, I don't know what would happen with the tiebreak.
But
they didn't play each other.
Let's assume
if the Steelers go 16-0, then the Steelers it'd be at Heinz Field.
I still don't. I still think the Steelers can't say much because if you go back in time, and you look at the Dolphins team that went undefeated, and you look at the Patriots who didn't go undefeated entirely because they lost the Super Bowl that year, but undefeated in the preseason. You can't compare the Steelers team to those two teams. Those two teams were phenomenal teams that their dynamics worked so well. Dan Marino, Tom Brady, nothing against Roethlisberger. I think his undefeated season time is over. And if he does get it this season, I think you just look at it, you had the fucking easiest schedule. I mean, honestly, you did. And you can't say much. I mean, you beat the Ravens twice, very close games, but one game you didn't have Lamar Jackson, and they almost still beat you. And they lost Marcus Peters in the middle of the game. So, they made a lot of great plays, but that you just can't compare.
I just don't know if you're the Steelers, if you can say much at this point. But, I mean, obviously, if you go undefeated, that'll be incredible. But, they're not necessarily, they're not handling these games. It's very, they make a couple of good plays and then they pull it out. It's not like they're just rolling over teams. Whereas the Kansas City game, Tampa Bay, that Kansas City, Tampa Bay, I thought Kansas City was going to kill them. I was like, oh, man.
It was a slaughter fest. It was a slaughter fest.
I was shocked at the final score of that game. Because I was like, how has this happened? Kansas City was rolling over them in the first quarter.
To be fair, though, even in that Ravens-Steelers game, that was also sort of the same thing. The Ravens, had a last minute, 3 minutes left, had a 70-yard touchdown, and then they tried an onside kick. It didn't work. So even that game wasn't as close as the final score says.
They took RG3. The RG3 was out.
Yeah, I know.
They had
whether the Steelers are the best team ever or not, whatever it is, they're going to be a tough team to knock out in the playoffs. And if they do play KC, it'll be a good game. I think KC wins, but I don't know that the Steelers, like you say, I don't know what you do at this point. I don't know what you do. I mean, they're doing great, is what they like. They're doing great. Fantastic. No, they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be the
best thing. Yeah, exactly. The best thing they can do is go undefeated, like they should. But
the best thing they can also do is prepare. At this point, you're gonna probably play KC. I mean, before the season
get the Super Bowl without going through.
Before the season even starts, I think you just assume. I think what you got to do is assume that you're playing Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and what you have to do is prepare for that. You can't go blindly in trying to win all these easy matchups, and then not. They probably will. They're going to make this mistake where you go blindly into every game, not thinking about the future, because that's what you have to look back at.
Yeah, if they do face KC, I think they'll think about it. I think Tomlin's a smart guy. I think he'll, to some extent, but I think
how much it'll do, I don't know.
But I think, again, I don't know what much they can do. I think Patrick Mahomes is kind of just a damage control type of guy where you just gotta hope he just doesn't because he's just hard to defend.
I mean, yeah. So basically, my takeaways from this week are the same as almost every other week, but this week it's almost more solidified than ever. And I was saying at the beginning of the year too, I just don't think any team beats KC, and it's a boring and freezing cold take because it's just, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I'm sorry. I don't know how anyone's going to beat him. Mahomes doesn't make mistakes. He wins games when he needs to win games. Agreed. Even if they get down, he literally I just am never feeling like KC.
I feel like KC should have beat the Bucs like the Saints beat the Bucs that 1 week. Like when Drew Brees beat the Bucs. It honestly looked like that. It honestly looked like that. It looked like that. If it wasn't for Tom Brady making these completions and these small little yardage and trying to get some field goals and couple touchdowns, then that it would have been much different.
No matter the score, it felt like it was a KC blowout.
If you remember too, the end of that game, Brady didn't even get the ball. Brady was waiting to get back on the field, and Mahomes was like, "Sorry."
Mahomes completed one to Tyreek Hill. He gave him the first down.
Yeah, he gave one to Tyreek Hill and get the first down. He's like, "Nope, you're not getting back on the field." And Brady was like,
because again, Mahomes just makes winning plays. I can't imagine a game or a world where he's not going to make that play. He just doesn't make mistakes at the end of games. He wins games. He's a fucking winner, and there's no other way to put it. It's incredible to watch him. It's incredible, mind blowing.
He doesn't give second chances. He's almost like Brady in the sense where he's just not going to let up. He's not going to make mistakes when at the end of the fourth quarter. He's just not going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
that was crazy for me to see. I was like, if Brady gets back on the field, Bucs might have a chance to at least tie this game, put it in overtime.
But Mahomes knew that, and he didn't let him. He didn't let him.
No, I'm just going to get a first down, stay on the sideline.
So it's going to be interesting. This NFL is just getting closer and closer to what we originally predicted. It's been back and forth, but I think it's originally what you predicted, Justin, and what I said. and I think, Jerry, you did too, with KC coming out of the AFC, and NFC is still going to be
it's a question mark, but
God knows what. Now Saints don't have
questioning that contract that Mahomes signed. Now I'm just like,
you were questioning that?
Now no. Now you
wait a minute.
I never for a second thought that was a bad contract. I would have given him 5 more on top of it too. 5 more years.
I was shocked at the amount of money he was getting just already, but especially this season, that's
for guaranteed championships every year from this point forward.
It almost is.
That's a championship. This man's gonna need fucking stands. Like, he's gonna have to make acrylic fucking hand statues for every ring he's gonna get. I'm not shitting you right now. This man is gonna have so many fucking rings. You think he's going to beat Brady? It's not even a question of if, it's when. How fast?
I think it is a question of if, but I do think that. I mean, I don't know. 6 rings is hard to do. That's really hard to do. He's already got 1. He's got 13 more years on his contract, so he basically has to go about 50%, which is so hard. But there's 32 teams in the league to win 50% of the next decade of Super Bowls. But I think he probably will. I mean, I don't know. I think
he'll at least get 4. He's at least getting 4.
There's going to be great talent coming in, but I don't know who's going to be in the next 2 years.
That's another thing I was going to say. Like, you're not looking at like who is going to really as right now.
I can't tell you right now.
We don't even know.
Test him. That's true.
Lamar Jackson was going to test him.
We don't know who the starting quarterbacks are.
I thought Lamar Jackson was going to test him. I don't think Lamar Jackson's even a test for him. I think at this point,
I think Trevor Lawrence, if he lives up to the hype, could be.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously Deshaun Watson. There's a Josh Allen. There's young guys, really good quarterbacks. But
I think the only thing that will stop, again, this may be a really hot take. I'm going to take Jerry's bit right now.
Taking my bit.
I feel like right now, because these are two quarterbacks that I have high respect for, and I think are going to go at it a lot, is Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes. And I honestly think that, I don't know if it's going to be Kyler Murray with Arizona Cardinals. Again, I don't know. But right now, it looks like that.
I think it will be.
I think it will be.
I
think it will be, especially with Hopkins. And I mean, Larry Fitz is probably going to retire at some point soon. And hopefully they get some more people like a Will Fuller. But what I think is going to end up happening is, if the Arizona Cardinals can get better and can become a playoff team with, on the downhill slope, and Breeze is going to lead the league, and Rodgers and Brady, the NFC is going to get a little easier with those teams, because I don't see many, what quarterbacks are going to take over that position. And Kyler Murray is another just great-ass player who, he doesn't have everybody around him like Mahomes does and the coaching, but if he does at some point, I feel like
Kyler's got a lot going for him right now. I mean, he's got. Larry Fitz, and they have a great coach in.
He does. But I'm just saying, in comparison, when you look at these teams.
No, I know. I do like Kyler a lot too, though.
I just think Kyler is going to put up, if Mahomes ends up going and Kyler ever gets to a Super Bowl, which I hope he does, and I feel like he may. It'll be a great ass matchup, and it'll maybe like a Brady Eli type of situation where you think Brady's going to win it, but maybe Eli. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. Again, these are just predictions, but I don't know.
Yeah.
On that, I don't know.
All right,
I don't know if you guys want to transfer to NHL real quick.
Yeah, we'll try to keep this one under an hour, so we'll hit on NHL right now.
On the NHL. So DeBrusk signs with the Bees again, 2 years. I think it was $3.75 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was roughly around there. Good deal. I'm glad we brought him back. I think we all can agree that's just what the Bruins need, especially
he's definitely going to bet on himself here by signing that shorter deal for less money, because I'm sure he wanted 5 or 6, and he just hasn't played to that yet, and we weren't going to give it to him. So he signed a shorter deal for less money, and he's going to bet on himself and hopefully have a good next 2 seasons, and we can give him that big deal. So I like it.
Exactly. And I feel like
first thing Don Sweeney's ever done that, well, you know what? I'm not even going to give him credit. I'm not going to say it.
Don't even give him credit.
He was all Bruin. It's not like we brought him in. We fucking extended a young star. And I'm not going to give Don Sweeney credit for something that
There should be no reason why DeBrusk doesn't sign back again, and there should be no reason why he isn't locked in, which he will be, for those when the Krakens come around and try and pick up players from other teams. There's no reason why.
No doubt.
And the Sean Corrali situation still concerns me, but we'll get into that another podcast.
I can't wait for the NHL season to start for John.
And everyone out there, Jerry's getting more into the NHL, and I love it. This man's going to start being
I can't wait to get the season started, boys, and I can't wait to talk about more about how much you guys hated Don Sweeney, because I think that could be gold. But
that's so. It's
Man,
so
do
gold.
I hate him?
Yeah, honestly. And then to finish it off with 2 quick things, we got some issues in the NHL now. Justin told me shout out to Cam McKenna if he's watching this and he gets
Facts.
to this.
Shout out to you, Cam. He does watch these long too, so he's probably watching.
So Cam, shout out to you. Miss you, bro. Got to hang out at some point with you and Justin and the boys. And we got some issues at the season. And hell, if you don't know what the hell's going on, I don't. The CBA, don't know what the fuck that is. The Player Association, but essentially,
it's very confusing.
Essentially, they're trying to stop a lockout, but the players obviously don't have a lot of money because the NHL doesn't have a lot of money compared to the NBA, NHL. So a lot of players have to get second jobs, especially in a COVID crisis. And already jobs are thin. So you have to if you have a girlfriend, she's working, great. If you're living with your family, which a lot of these young players are, great. It's tough, especially for these new rookies that are coming into the league. And they don't have much money. So a lot of it was talking about they need some players get second jobs, which I have seen. Some players
the minimum deals are like $800,000.
Some have a second job, a small second job. And I think with this COVID crisis and the lockouts that happened, they did that as well. I don't know what those are. If they're small, maybe they're with reporting, Nesson, ESPN. I don't know. Yeah. But it's interesting to see. And Bettman is another.
I trust Bettman though. He'll trust him. Done. He's a good commissioner, but
he's like silver. I trust him, but I just don't know what's going on.
They don't have it's not going as smoothly as the NBA is as far as just picking a date and making it work. They're still fluctuating around sometime in January, maybe. They're also talking about some cities like the Kings have been talking about it. The Bruins have been talking about it, doing games outside so that you can have fans because obviously COVID,
you need money. You need money.
So they need the money from the fans. They're also talking about putting advertisements on the jerseys this year for the first time ever to make
which is going to be like it's going to be like the European leagues where they have just
I don't know if it's going to quite be that.
It better not be like that.
Like the Celtics or more like the NBA where you have like the GE patch on the sleeve or whatever.
I'll be happy
with
that.
One ad. I think like one.
It better not be like 70 ads because I'm telling you right now, the European leagues just look disgusting with
those jerseys. Those aren't
those bumper stickers all over their fucking jerseys. And then ending it off, just let's end it on a good note, and we'll continue to talk about this because I'm sure this is going to happen. But Evander Kane versus the Paul brothers.
I'm sure you've been seeing this too, Jerry.
I haven't seen a situation like this since Jalen Ramsey said that he could play in the NHL, which is another.
I did see that. And wasn't it Evander Kane that called him out too?
He called him out. So what I'm interested to see right now,
beast.
What I'm glad to see is Evander Kane. He posted on his Instagram, to be determined, to be announced who he's fighting and when, and I love that. And just after this happens, Snoop Dogg now comes out with a fight club where up and coming celebrities, just amateurs basically, but celebs, can dish it out, which I honestly am so for. And I would love to see one of those first ones being Evander Kane versus both the Paul brothers. Put them both in there, Evander Kane's beating them. I don't think anybody knows this, and if Cam can ever get on this as a guest star, if we ever do that, because I'd love to hear Cam on an NHL segment. Hockey players are built different. I don't want to hear it. Put a hockey player in a ring with any person. No, these guys got skates on, jerseys, and they're still throwing punches. All I'm going to say is Sean Thornton. That's it. And Evander Kane is one of these guys who's built like that. This man is a fucking beast. The only guy that after this I could think of is Bufflin. Oh my God. If I honestly want to see him fight one of the Paul brothers next to Evander Kane, that's a knockout. It's done. As Josh Azor says, knockout, done, over. Peace.
That's
my hot take.
We're getting to the long end, but yeah, the only thing I'll say on that is I would definitely not want to face a hockey player. I feel like we should have talked about the Nate Robinson Jake Paul fight, but that didn't last that long, so I felt like it wasn't. The thing is, I think if a hockey player steps in the ring with anybody, unless it's another hockey player, that's not going to be good. If he learns how to fight, because I think boxing is a genuine sport and that it does take some skill. But yeah,
let me just say to you also, I think
Evander Kane knows how to fight. This man is one of the best fighters in the NHL.
Let me tell you,
I think that Jake Paul, it's not going to happen because there's a whole list of people that want to fight Jake Paul, and an NHL player is not going to make the most money. And Jake Paul is only going to do what makes him the most money. So it's not going to be Evander Kane, unfortunately. We're not going to ever end up seeing it. But, I mean, I'd put all my money on Evander Kane. I'll tell you that much. This guy is one of the best fighters in hockey. And that'd be fun to watch.
Either one of the Paul brothers, honestly, even if Logan wanted to go at him, I'd still say Evander. I just don't see, these brothers have been training and they've been trying to do boxing. But just hockey players, again, they're built different. And this man is like, he's a great hockey player and he's a great fighter, which you sometimes don't always see. I mean, hell,
let's face it. Like, if you're a hockey player, though, you got some dog in you. Like, there's not like.
Oh, you gotta, because there's so much. You're on skates. You're dropping. You're literally hitting someone with their helmet on, with just a bare fist. That's another thing. And some of these guys knock their whole helmets off with a punch. And Evander Kane is one of those guys. He'll break your visor right in your fucking face. And I don't see how. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was just absolutely just an abomination, like the Ramsey claim where he could play in the NHL, which honestly, Evander Kane would have a better job playing in the NFL than Ramsey in the NHL, which I think is easy for anyone to say. I mean, it's just totally, it's two different games, two entirely different games. I mean, I appreciate both sports. They both have their tough things, but sometimes these people just speak out of their asses. Worse than LeVar, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, we'll probably wrap up there.
Yeah, it's been real, boys.
It's been real, boys. Thank you for all your thoughts and opinions tonight. I'm glad you guys could join us. Holy, love having you here. Justin, love having you here. Sorry Damon couldn't make it tonight, but hopefully he'll be on next week's episode. As always, if you made it this far, you like something, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify. If you want us to talk about anything, please comment.
Facts.
We're going to try to keep improving this.
See you guys next week.
And
love you all.
Subscribe to stay on the journey. It's nice talking to you, boys. I'll talk to you later.
Peace out.
All right, boys. Peace.